The Union View. The Union View.
Work. Work. Gonna make it work. Unions make it work. 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 Gonna make it work. Oh, unions make it work.
The Union View. The Union View.
Gonna make it work. Unions make it work.
The Union View. The Union View.
Gonna make it work. Oh, unions make it work.
The Union View. The Union View.
The top 1% keeps getting richer. No wonder there is social unrest and discontent being played out in cities across the country. Thousands of protesters, including those of you here right now, are giving voice to the millions who are saying, enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. We will no longer stand for a country which is being sorted into the privileged few and the unfortunate many, with the middle class being squeezed out. So, just this week you saw it. People in Washington want to paint us as radicals. Well, is it radical to want people to work? Is it radical to want people to have a fair shake and get a job and support their families? No. Is it radical for students to want to get a job after college and not be burdened with a mountain of student debt and no income? No. Is it radical for Americans to want to remain in their homes and not be foreclosed or lose their life savings? And is it radical to demand repairs for the shameful conditions in our schools that too many of our children attend? Collapsing ceilings, will we keep equity in this country? Will we keep marching till we have economic justice in this country? Are you ready? Are you ready? Is enough enough?
And for Randy Weingarten and the American Federation of Teachers, let's give her a round of applause. Lastly, let me say we will continue to fight the power that it seems will never cease. For as long as we have no justice, they shall have no peace. Ladies and gentlemen, the Executive Director of the National Action Network, Tamika Mallory.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is such an honor to stand with all of you today on this historic and great day. On behalf of National Action Network, I thank all of you, our partners, our sponsors, and our friends for being here to make this a momentous occasion where our voices have been united. Today, we will be the first mass movement of our nation's history to march to the monument of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., sounding the clarion call for jobs and justice. Some of you have asked, why are we marching? Well, I have several answers for you today. We are marching because the rich are getting rich and we are getting poor. And Congress has the nerve to play around with the jobs bill that we so desperately need passed right now. We march because it is easier for our kids to get guns than to get a good education. We march because our brother, Troy Anthony Davis, was unjustly murdered and executed. We march because in communities all across this country, the justice system chooses to do what it will with people of color, and that is intolerable. And today, we march to remember our past, to think about what's happening in the present, but to define our future. Dr. King and all those who came before us fought so that we may live in a freer world. And as a woman, I want to make sure that we always honor those sisters who stood just as strong, fought just as hard, marched just as long, and suffered just as much as the brothers did. Women like Rosa Parks, Ida B. Wells, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Coretta Scott King. Nearly 45 years ago, Coretta Scott King learned the awful truth that the father of her children had been murdered. Hatred and gun violence took Dr. King out. But you know what? I'm sure she went home. And as we women are strong, what we do is figure it all out. So I'm sure that she walked away and said, how will I support my family? How will I continue to put food on the table? And there are so many of us today that are asking the same question. And when there are no jobs, and there is no justice, and violence is plaguing our community, there is no future for our people. But the good news, brothers and sisters, is that we have joined here today to make sure that rich people cannot be the only ones that live well and have the opportunity to put a roof over their heads and food on the table. So we've got some heavy work to do. We have to continue to be united, and we have to continue to march. So I'm telling you, first of all, there's nothing worse than an unhappy woman. And if women in this country are not happy, we will have no peace. When we leave here, after we finish marching, I need you to continue marching. I want you to march in California, march in Alabama for immigration, march in New York to get the guns off our streets, march wherever you are. And by all means, march every day right here in Washington, D.C. for jobs and for justice. It is my honor to bring before you a man who has picked up the baton and kept the dream alive. This man has done his best to be, as President Obama has said, the voice for the voiceless. He has stood strong against the waves of hatred and bigotry. And like all of us, he's been knocked down. But what makes him different is that he never stays down. He gets back up. He is a true speaker. He's down for the people. No matter on TV, no matter where he is for you. You always remember that. Whatever the naysayers say, I'm telling you that Reverend Al Sharpton is our leader. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring him, the man that has brought us all together today, the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton.
No justice! No justice! No justice! No justice! No justice! What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? 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 Are you ready to march? Are you ready to march? Are you ready to march? All right. Let me say, love you. To all of our labor leaders,
He does, very good.
George Gresham, Randy Weingarten, our brother Lee Saunders,
Yeah.
CWA, Brother Norman, all of those that have come, joining Mark Morial and
Hillary Shelton, and all of us, we come today because this country has ignored the plight of unemployed and people that are chronically unemployed. On Monday in the Capitol, they had the audacity to turn down a jobs bill. So if you won't get the jobs bill done in the suite, then we will get the jobs bill done in the street. We cannot sit here with 14 million people unemployed while you get ready for an election. We cannot sit here with 1% of this country controlling 30 to 40% of the wealth, and you tell us our problem is each other. Our problem is not each other. You play the games of blacks against Latinos, Latinos against working class whites. It's time for us to occupy Wall Street, occupy Washington, occupy Alabama. We come to take our country back to the people. Martin Luther King is not a dead monument. Martin Luther King is a live testimony. They shot down the dreamer, but they didn't shoot down the dream. Before he died, he had children, and his children is in Washington today. He taught us to stand up, and we come to stand up in his name. There are those that have tried to act like we had gone asleep. And there's no reason that we could not understand the confusion. When you look at the fact that people are talking about states' rights again, they want to take away our vote in 34 states, talking about voter ID, talking about ending early registration, ending early voting. They want to honor Dr. King and revoke the Voting Rights Act at the same time. You can't kill the Voting Rights Act and honor Dr. King. You can't unemploy people and honor Dr. King. We will not let you make a mockery of what Dr. King stood for. Dr. King did not stand for the high and mighty. He stood for those of us that were cast out and cast back. And we are coming up front today to tell you, just like Dr. King went and put the wind behind the backs of President Kennedy and President Johnson to get a Civil Rights Act and a Voting Rights Act, we come to put the wind behind the back of President Obama to get a Jobs Act for the people of this country. Reporter said to me, Reverend Al, is this about the election? No, this is about our survival. When you talking about you got to cut Medicare and cut Medicaid, when you talking about in order to balance a budget, you created the deficit by giving tax cuts to the rich. You created the deficit by giving loopholes to the wealthy. You created the deficits by letting people outsource jobs. Now you want us to pay for the jobs that you sent abroad. You want us to pay for your loopholes. You want to go into our parents' Social Security. When you mess with our Social Security, this is not about Obama, this is about my mama. a winter of struggle. We are going to call on 25 cities to march on the same day.
Good.
And we're going to march to the legislators in 25 cities to let them know that we will not allow you to vote against these parts of the job bill, or we will vote to put you out of office. We want those in the Senate and those on the sidelines, even some of these bulldog Democrats, to understand if you can't stand up for the unemployed, we will vote to make sure you join the unemployed. Somebody said that the Occupy Wall Street was a mob. Occupy Washington was a mob. They're not a mob. They are saying what we are saying, that you cannot act like this country is your playground, while single mothers can't take care of their families, while you send us to schools that don't have enough money to give us the teachers that can teach us. Then you want to demonize teachers and act like teachers that try to help our children. Some that have to go to school with no breakfast in their bellies, and the only one with a smile in their face is the teachers at the front of the room. You want to cut the teachers, you want to cut the firemen, you want to cut the policemen, you want to cut the municipal workers, while you take care of your tycoons. We are telling you, look at the mall today. We just getting started. We get ready to organize. So we're going to march. There are many of our leaders that will speak to us at the program when we come back. I want us to march orderly. Don't bunch up on each other. Stretch the line out. Let all them helicopter newsmen see us stretch from Lincoln and Washington all the way to Martin Luther King. We come to put the world on notice. There's a new address in town. We used to march to Lincoln Memorial, but as of tomorrow we got a new address. We got a new monument. A man that was born in the back of the ground, but he kept on marching till he brought us from the outhouse to the White House. We got a new monument. We have a new address. We don't bow our heads. We don't bow our heads. We ain't scratching where we ain't itching. We ain't laughing at where it ain't funny. Pull your shoulders back. Lift your head up high. Let's demand our rights. We're Dr. King's children. We're Coletta King's children. We're not going to bow down. We're not going to bend. We're not going to buckle. Stand up, America. Stand up, America. Stand up, America. Are you ready to march? Are you ready to march? Helping to lead us to the King Monument today. You that study Scripture know that it goes from one generation to another. That every time God called one, there was always the next wave coming. Didn't stop when Abraham went on to Isaac. Didn't stop when Isaac went on to Moses. Didn't stop when Moses went on to Joshua. From generation to generation, we're going to keep on marching. And we're not going to stop. Martin Luther King promised us, even though he may not get there, we get to the promised land. Well, just putting the president in the White House, that's not the promised land. That shows we can get there. We're not there until every well-blooded American has equal protection under the law and has equal opportunity. We're not there as long as you can execute men like Troy Davis on no evidence that will stand up in a sane court. We're not there as long as 1% control the most. But we are still going to keep fighting. And that next generation is going to help us to do that, to help lead this march with us. I bring you to say a few words as we line up and head to the King Monument. I bring you the oldest child, the heir of Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King the third. Very briefly, first of all, let me thank God for the wonderful opportunity to be in our nation's capital on this weekend as we prepare to dedicate a memorial named in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Now, we've already heard what our charge is. And so I don't need to say much, and I shall not. But what I will say is that over 45 years ago, my father talked about a redistribution of wealth in our nation. In fact, that is probably why he was killed. Because he said that if America is going to survive responsibly, that it must have a redistribution of wealth. Reverend Sharpton has told us for a number of times, just through his show and every day, 1% of the wealth cannot, 1% of the population can't continue to control 40+% of the wealth. That is a result, I would say, though, of 30 years of failed public policy that began with President Ronald Reagan. That's when the policies began. So I don't know what they may tell you, but that's the truth. We have bailed out the auto industry, and we should have. We bailed out Wall Street. Now it's time to bail out working Americans. That's what this is about. That's what the Occupy Wall Street campaign is about. That's why we're all here today. Yes, we're marching to celebrate the monument opening tomorrow, but we got work to do. I believe that if my father was alive, he would be right here with all of us involved in this demonstration today. Let me thank Reverend Sharpton for convening us. Thank each of you for coming. Thank all of America that gave to that monument. It was not just corporations. Thank God for the corporations. But it was individuals from all of America that gave for that monument to be here. Let us begin this march. Thank you, and God bless each of you always. Let me say this. When we come back, many of us, we have Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee is here. Dick Gregory is here. Occupy Washington, Sarah Shaw, Joe Northam, Oscar Ramirez, they're here. Occupy Washington, Occupation Washington is here. There will be Reverend Jesse Jackson is here. Sidney Miller. So we want to line up, we're going to meet right. Y'all don't get in front of the front line. They call it front line for a reason. That means out front. And we will stretch the line. We will march and let you see the monument. They're holding it open. Let us see it so you can march on back and hear our speakers. Are we ready to do that? Occupy Wall Street been out there a month. You can do a few hours to stand up for jobs and justice.
Make it work. Unions make it work.
The Union View. The Union View.
Go make it work. Our unions make it work.
The Union View. The Union View.
Go make it work. Our unions make it work. The Union View.